The woman everyone thought was ordinary. Before we begin today's story, I want you to think about someone. Maybe your mother. Maybe your father. Maybe that person who sacrificed everything for you while asking for nothing in return. Now imagine discovering, years after they are gone, that they had been carrying a secret their entire life. A secret so powerful that it could change everything you thought you knew about them. What would you do? Would you feel grateful? Would you feel shocked? Or would you regret not asking more questions when you still had the chance? Today's story is about a poor Nigerian mother whose greatest sacrifice remained hidden for years. A woman everybody thought they knew. A woman everybody underestimated. A woman whose secret would eventually leave her son questioning everything. This is the story of Mama Grace and her only son, Emeka. In a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Benin City, there lived a woman known simply as Mama Grace. She wasn't rich. She wasn't influential. Nobody considered her important. If you walked past her on the street, you probably wouldn't look twice. Every morning before the sun appeared, she pushed her small wheelbarrow to the roadside where she sold roasted corn and groundnuts. Rain or sunshine. Good days or bad days. She was always there. Her clothes were simple. Her sandals were old. And her hands told the story of years of struggle. Deep lines covered her palms. Years of carrying heavy loads. Years of working without rest. Years of fighting a battle nobody could see. Many people in the community felt sorry for her. Others laughed behind her back. See how hard this woman is suffering. Life has dealt with her. That woman is just managing. Those words followed her everywhere. But Mama Grace never responded. She simply smiled and continued working. Because while everybody was busy judging her life, nobody knew what she was carrying inside her heart. Her husband had died when Emeka was only 6 years old. One ordinary morning, he left home for work. By evening, he never returned. A road accident took his life instantly. The news shattered their family. Mama Grace remembered that day as if it happened yesterday. She remembered neighbors rushing into her compound. She remembered hearing people cry. She remembered falling to her knees. And she remembered looking at little Emeka standing in the corner, confused and frightened. He didn't fully understand what had happened. He only knew his father wasn't coming home. That night, while everyone else slept, Mama Grace sat beside her son's bed. She watched him sleeping. And she made a promise. A promise she never spoke aloud. No matter what happens, I will not allow this boy's future to die with his father. It was a promise that would define the rest of her life. The years that followed were not easy. Not even close. There were days when there was no food in the house. Days when electricity disappeared for weeks. Days when debt collectors knocked on the door. Days when she cried herself to sleep. But every morning, she woke up and continued fighting. Not for herself. For Emeka. Always for Emeka. Whenever she earned a little money, she spent it on school fees. Whenever she had a choice between buying something for herself or buying something for her son, she chose her son. Every single time. People often saw Emeka wearing clean school uniforms. What they didn't see was that his mother sometimes wore the same dress for years. What they didn't see was that she often skipped meals. What they didn't see was that many nights she drank only water and went to bed hungry. If Emeka noticed, she always gave the same answer. My son, I'm not hungry. But she was. Very hungry. As Emeka grew older, one thing became clear. He was exceptionally intelligent. His teachers noticed it immediately. He learned quickly. He asked questions. He worked harder than most students his age. One afternoon, his teacher called Mama Grace to school. The moment she arrived, fear entered her heart. She thought Emeka had done something wrong. Instead, the teacher smiled. "Mama Grace, your son is one of the brightest students in this school." Tears immediately formed in her eyes. The teacher continued. "If he continues like this, he can become anything he wants." That sentence stayed with her for years. He can become anything he wants. From that day onward, she worked even harder. If she had to wake up at 4 a.m., she would. If she had to stand under the hot sun for 10 hours, she would. If she had to suffer, she would. Because she believed her suffering had a purpose. As time passed, Emeka entered secondary school. Expenses increased. School fees increased. Books became more expensive. Transportation costs rose. Everything became harder. But somehow, Mama Grace always found a way. At least that's what everyone believed. Nobody questioned it. Nobody looked closely. Nobody noticed the strange things happening behind the scenes. Because while everyone thought Mama Grace was simply working hard, she had already started hiding something. Something important. Something that would remain hidden for many years. One evening, after returning from school, Emeka noticed his mother sitting alone outside. The sun was setting. The neighborhood was unusually quiet. Mama Grace stared into the distance, lost in thought. For a moment, she looked older than her age. Much older. Her shoulders seemed heavier. Her eyes seemed tired. "Mom, are you okay?" Emeka asked. She quickly forced a smile. "I'm fine, my son." But Emeka wasn't convinced. Something felt different. Something felt wrong. Then he noticed it. A cough. A deep cough. The kind that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her chest. It lasted several seconds. When it finally stopped, she pretended nothing had happened. But Emeka had seen it. And it frightened him. Because his mother never showed weakness. Never. Yet lately, she seemed exhausted all the time. Over the next few months, the coughing became worse. Sometimes she struggled to breathe. Sometimes she paused while speaking. Sometimes she held her chest when she thought nobody was watching. The neighbors noticed. Friends noticed. Even customers noticed. But whenever someone suggested visiting a hospital, she refused. "It's nothing serious." That became her answer. Every single time. What nobody knew was that she was afraid. Not of dying. Not of sickness. Not even of pain. She was afraid of spending money she believed belonged to her son's future. And so she remained silent. Carrying both her illness and her secret alone. Then one afternoon, something happened that would stay in Emeka's memory forever. He returned home unexpectedly early. As he entered the house, he saw his mother quickly hiding a brown envelope inside an old wooden cupboard. The moment she saw him, her face changed. Just for a second. But he noticed. And in that second, a question was born inside his mind. What was Mama Grace hiding? At the time, he had no idea that the answer to that question would eventually change his life forever. And he certainly had no idea that years later, after his mother's death, he would finally uncover a truth so shocking that it would leave him speechless. The envelope nobody was supposed to see. If you've ever lost someone you love, then you know one painful truth. Sometimes the questions hurt more than the loss itself. The questions keep you awake at night. The questions follow you for years. The questions refuse to disappear. And for Emeka, one question had already begun to grow inside his heart. What was Mama Grace hiding? At first, he tried to ignore it. After all, she was his mother. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe the brown envelope contained market receipts. Maybe it was debt papers. Maybe it was something personal she simply didn't want to discuss. But deep down, Emeka knew something wasn't right. The look on her face when she hid the envelope had told him everything. She was protecting something. Or perhaps protecting someone. And somehow, that secret seemed connected to the suffering she carried every day. The following weeks felt different. Very different. For the first time in his life, Emeka started paying closer attention to his mother. Little things he had never noticed before suddenly became impossible to ignore. The late nights. The mysterious phone calls. The unexplained disappearances. The way she sometimes sat alone outside after sunset. Lost in thought. As though she was carrying the weight of the entire world on her shoulders. One evening, after finishing his homework, Emeka walked into the sitting room and found her staring at an old photograph. She didn't hear him enter. For several moments she simply stared at the picture. Her eyes filled with sadness. When she finally noticed him standing there, she quickly folded the photograph and slipped it into her handbag. The same way she had hidden the envelope. Too quickly. Too nervously. "Mom, whose picture was that?" She hesitated. Only for a second. But Emeka noticed. "It was your father." Emeka nodded. But something felt strange. The answer sounded incomplete. Almost rehearsed. As if she had prepared it beforehand. Still, he chose not to push further. Meanwhile, financial pressure continued to grow. Secondary school graduation was approaching. University applications would soon begin. And everyone knew what that meant. Money. Lots of money. The reality frightened Emeka. Every day he watched his mother struggle. Every day he saw her return home exhausted. And every day he wondered how she would ever afford university fees. One Saturday morning, he made a decision. A difficult one. He approached her while she prepared breakfast. "Mom." "Yes, my son. I've been thinking." She smiled. "That is usually dangerous." Emeka laughed softly. Then his expression became serious. "Maybe I shouldn't go to university." The spoon in her hand stopped moving. The room became silent. Even the sound of birds outside seemed to disappear. "What did you say?" "Maybe I should find work instead." She slowly turned toward him. "No. Mom. No." Her voice was firmer than usual. "I don't want you to suffer because of me. And I don't want you to throw away your future because of money." The determination in her eyes shocked him. It was the same look she wore whenever life tried to defeat her. The same look that had carried them through years of hardship. But where would the money come from? For several seconds she said nothing. Then she looked away. "I'll find a way." Again. The same answer. The same mystery. The same refusal to explain. A few days later, Emeka experienced something he couldn't stop thinking about. School ended earlier than expected. As he walked home through the busy streets, he spotted his mother standing across the road. At first, he smiled. He was about to wave. Then he noticed something strange. She wasn't alone. A man stood beside her. A well-dressed older man. He looked wealthy. The kind of man people immediately respected. The two appeared to be having a serious conversation. Then something happened. The man handed her an envelope. Almost identical to the one she had hidden at home. Mama Grace accepted it. Quickly placed it inside her handbag. And walked away. Emeka froze. His heart started racing. Who was that man? Why was he giving his mother envelopes? What was inside them? Money. Documents. Something else. For a moment, he considered following her. But he couldn't bring himself to do it. Instead, he walked home with questions swirling inside his head. That night he barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the man. The envelope. The worried expression on his mother's face. By morning, curiosity had become something stronger. Suspicion. For the first time, Emeka began imagining possibilities. Perhaps his mother owed money. Perhaps someone was helping her secretly. Perhaps she was involved in something she didn't want him to know. None of the possibilities felt right. Yet none could be dismissed. Weeks passed. University entrance examinations arrived. Emeka performed brilliantly. His teachers celebrated. His friends congratulated him. Even neighbors proudly spoke about him. Everybody expected great things. Everybody except Emeka. Because while others focused on his future, he remained trapped by uncertainty. What if they couldn't afford university? What if all his hard work led nowhere? What if his dreams ended before they even began? The fear followed him everywhere. One evening, a heavy rainstorm swept across the city. The wind shook rooftops. Thunder echoed through the neighborhood. Electricity disappeared. As usual, the small house became dark. Mama Grace was still outside. She hadn't returned from the market. Emeka sat alone waiting. An hour passed. Then another. Still no sign of her. Worry slowly began replacing patience. His mother was never this late. Never. Finally, unable to sit still any longer, he grabbed an umbrella and stepped outside. Rain soaked the streets. Water rushed through open gutters. The entire neighborhood looked deserted. Then he saw her. Far down the road. Walking slowly. Very slowly. Something was wrong. Even from a distance he could tell. She looked weak. Unsteady. As though every step required enormous effort. Emeka ran toward her. Mom. She looked up. Attempted to smile. Then suddenly stumbled. Everything happened in seconds. Her knees buckled. The umbrella fell from her hand. And she collapsed. Mom. Panic exploded inside him. Rain poured around them as he rushed to her side. Her eyes remained open. But she looked exhausted. Terribly exhausted. For a terrifying moment, Emeka thought he was losing her. With the help of neighbors, they brought her home. Everyone urged her to visit a hospital. Everyone. But once again she refused. I'll be fine. The neighbors exchanged worried glances. Nobody believed her. Not even Emeka. Later that night, while she slept, he sat beside her bed. Watching. Thinking. Praying. For the first time, he truly understood how fragile she had become. The woman who had always seemed unbreakable suddenly looked vulnerable. Human. And old. Much older than her years. As he sat there, something caught his attention. Her handbag. It rested on a nearby chair. Partially open. Inside, he noticed the corner of a familiar brown envelope. His heart began pounding. The same envelope. Or at least one just like it. The room felt strangely quiet. His mother slept peacefully. The envelope remained within reach. For a moment, Emeka stared at it. Then looked back at his sleeping mother. Then back at the envelope. He knew he shouldn't. He knew it was wrong. But what if the envelope contained answers? What if it explained everything? The secret meetings. The money. The illness. The fear. The lies. His hand slowly moved toward the bag. Closer. 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 Then suddenly. Emeka. His mother's weak voice broke the silence. He froze instantly. Mama Grace's eyes were open. She was looking directly at him. And for the first time in his life, there was fear in her eyes. Real fear. The kind of fear that comes from someone desperate to protect a secret. A secret she never wanted her son to discover. Yet neither of them knew that the truth was already moving closer. Much closer. And very soon, events would begin unfolding that neither of them could stop. Because hidden inside those envelopes was something far bigger than money. Something connected to Mama Grace's past. Something connected to a promise made many years ago. A promise that would eventually change Emeka's life forever. The promise from the past. There are moments in life when a single look can change everything. Not words. Not actions. Just a look. The kind of look that tells you a story without saying a single sentence. The kind of look that reveals fear, pain, regret, and secrets all at once. That night, as Emeka stood beside his mother's bed, he saw that look for the first time. And it unsettled him. Because the woman lying before him wasn't the strong Mama Grace he had known his entire life. She looked frightened. Not because she was sick. Not because she was weak. But because she thought her son was about to discover something she had spent years trying to hide. The room remained silent. Outside, rain continued beating against the roof. Inside, Emeka slowly pulled his hand away from her handbag. For several seconds neither of them spoke. Then Mama Grace forced a small smile. "Why are you still awake, my son?" Emeka swallowed. "I was worried about you." Her eyes softened. The fear disappeared almost immediately, replacing itself with the familiar warmth he had known since childhood. "I'm okay." The answer came quickly. Too quickly. The same answer she always gave. The same answer she had been giving for months. Maybe even years. "I'm okay." But they both knew it wasn't true. The following morning, Mama Grace insisted on returning to work. Despite her collapse. Despite her weakness. Despite the concerns of everyone around her. Neighbors tried convincing her to rest. She refused. Friends advised her to seek medical treatment. She refused. Even Emeka begged her. Still, she refused. The stubborn determination that had carried her through years of hardship remained stronger than ever. As she prepared to leave, Emeka watched her carefully. She looked tired. Very tired. Yet there was something else in her eyes. Urgency. As if she was racing against time. As if she had something important she needed to finish. Something that couldn't wait. Days later, university admission results were released. The news spread quickly throughout the community. Emeka had been accepted. Not only accepted. He had scored among the best candidates. Neighbors celebrated. Friends congratulated him. Teachers proudly shared the news. The entire neighborhood seemed happier than he was. Because while everyone else celebrated, Emeka worried. University admission was one thing. Paying for it was another. That evening, several neighbors gathered outside Mama Grace's house. Some brought food. Others offered congratulations. One elderly woman smiled warmly. "Mama Grace, your son has made us proud." Tears formed in her eyes. "Thank God. You must be very happy." "I am. You have suffered for this boy." Mama Grace looked toward Emeka. For a moment, a strange expression crossed her face. Almost as if she was remembering something. Something painful. Something distant. Then she quietly replied. "It was worth it." Nobody noticed how emotional she became after saying those words. Nobody except Emeka. A week later, something unexpected happened. Mama Grace disappeared. Not permanently. But long enough to create concern. She left home early in the morning without explanation. Hours passed. Then more hours. By evening, she still hadn't returned. This wasn't normal. Not even close. Emeka walked around the neighborhood asking questions. Nobody had seen her. His anxiety grew. Night approached. Still no sign of her. Then finally, just before sunset, she returned. Looking exhausted. More exhausted than he had ever seen her. Her clothes were dusty. Her face looked pale. And her eyes appeared swollen as if she had been crying. "Mom, where were you?" She froze. Only for a moment. Then she smiled. "I had something important to do." "What thing?" "Just something I needed to settle." Again. A vague answer. No explanation. No details. Nothing. The mystery surrounding her life continued growing. Later that night, after she had gone to bed, Emeka sat outside under the moonlight. The questions in his mind felt heavier than ever. What was she hiding? Who was the wealthy man? Why did she keep receiving envelopes? Where did she disappear to? Why was she constantly worried? And perhaps most importantly, why did it feel like she was preparing for something? The thought sent a chill down his spine. Preparing for what? The answer would begin revealing itself sooner than expected. 3 days later, Emeka was returning from town when he encountered someone he had never seen before. An elderly man dressed in traditional attire. The man appeared to be searching for an address. When their eyes met, the stranger stopped walking. For several seconds, he stared at Emeka. Confused. Almost shocked. Then he slowly approached. "What is your name, young man?" "Emeka." The elderly man's eyes widened. "Emeka." "Yes. And your mother is Grace?" Emeka immediately became alert. "Yes." The man looked stunned. Completely stunned. As if he had just seen a ghost. For several moments he said nothing. Then he shook his head slowly. "Impossible." "What?" The old man continued staring. Finally, he spoke. "You look exactly like him." Emeka frowned. "Like who?" The old man's expression changed instantly. As if he had said too much. He quickly looked away. "Forget what I said." "What do you mean?" "It's nothing." The conversation ended abruptly. The man walked away, leaving Emeka standing there. Confused. Uneasy. And more curious than ever. Exactly like him. Like who? That night, Emeka couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. The stranger clearly knew something. Something connected to his mother. Something connected to his past. Yet he had refused to explain. The timing felt suspicious. Everything felt suspicious. For the first time, Emeka wondered whether the secret was bigger than he imagined. Much bigger. A few days later, another strange event occurred. Mama Grace received a phone call. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then Emeka noticed her reaction. The moment she heard the caller's voice, her face changed. She became nervous. Very nervous. She immediately stepped outside, trying to ensure he couldn't hear. But part of the conversation drifted through the window. Only fragments. Broken pieces. Yet enough to create new questions. Not yet. He cannot know. I made a promise. After university. Please give me more time. Emeka's heart pounded. He cannot know. Know what? And what promise was she talking about? The questions multiplied faster than answers. That evening, Mama Grace sat alone on the veranda. The sun slowly disappeared behind the horizon. Children played in nearby streets. Generators hummed across the neighborhood. Life continued as usual. But inside her heart, a storm was brewing. She looked older than ever. More tired. More worried. Eventually, Emeka joined her. Neither spoke for a while. Then she surprised him. "Emeka." "Yes, Mom. If anything ever happens to me. Immediately, he interrupted. Don't say that. She smiled sadly. Listen first. He remained silent. If anything ever happens to me, promise you'll continue your education. Mom. Promise me. The seriousness in her voice frightened him. I promise. She nodded slowly. Then looked toward the sky. A tear rolled down her cheek. Just one. But it was enough. And in that moment, Emeka felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Not fear of poverty. Not fear of failure. Fear of losing his mother. Later that night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Mama Grace sat alone in her room. The brown envelopes lay on the bed before her. Several of them now. Not one. Not two. Several. Carefully preserved. Carefully protected. Slowly, she opened one. Inside was a document. A document connected to a promise she had carried for more than 20 years. A promise that had shaped her entire life. A promise connected to Emeka. A promise connected to a powerful family. And a truth she prayed her son would never discover until the right time. But deep down, she knew the truth could not stay hidden forever. Because secrets have a way of finding the light. No matter how deeply they are buried. And unknown to Mama Grace. The first cracks were already beginning to appear. The old man. The mysterious phone calls. The envelopes. The wealthy stranger. All of them were pieces of the same puzzle. A puzzle that would soon explode into the open. And when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. The day the secret started coming out. There is a saying in Nigeria. No matter how long a lie hides in the dark, one day the sun will find it. For more than 20 years, Mama Grace had carried a burden alone. A burden so heavy that it had shaped every decision she made. Every sacrifice. Every sleepless night. Every prayer. Every tear. Yet despite all her efforts, she was beginning to realize something terrifying. The secret she had protected for most of her life was slowly slipping out of her hands. And the closer Emeka got to the truth, the more frightened she became. Not because she was ashamed. Not because she had done something wrong. But because she feared what the truth might do to her son. Some truths heal. Others destroy. And she wasn't sure which one this would be. A few weeks later, Emeka's university registration date finally arrived. The entire community seemed excited. Neighbors came to congratulate him. Friends celebrated with him. Even former teachers visited the house to wish him well. Everybody talked about his bright future. Everybody smiled. Everybody believed better days were ahead. But while everyone else celebrated, Mama Grace seemed distracted. Her smile no longer reached her eyes. Her laughter felt forced. And sometimes, when she thought nobody was watching, she stared into space as though something troubled her deeply. Emeka noticed. But he didn't know what to do. Every time he asked if she was okay, she gave the same answer. I'm fine, my son. The answer had become automatic. Like breathing. Like blinking. Like a shield she used to keep everyone away from the truth. 3 days before university registration, Emeka woke up unexpectedly during the middle of the night. At first, he thought he had heard thunder. Then he realized the sound was coming from inside the house. Someone was crying. Quietly. Softly. As though trying not to be heard. His heart immediately tightened. He sat up. Listened carefully. The sound came again. This time clearer. A woman crying. His mother. Emeka slowly got out of bed. The house was dark. The only light came from the moon outside. Following the sound, he moved toward her room. As he approached the door, he stopped. The crying continued. Then he heard something that made his blood run cold. Mama Grace was praying. Not an ordinary prayer. The kind of prayer people pray when they are desperate. The kind of prayer people pray when they are afraid. God, please. Her voice trembled. Please let me finish what I started. Silence. Then more crying. Please protect my son. Emeka froze. His stomach twisted. What was happening? Why was she talking like that? What exactly was she afraid of? For several minutes he stood outside the room. Listening. Confused. Worried. And more frightened than ever. Eventually he returned to bed. But sleep never came. The next morning, Mama Grace behaved as though nothing had happened. She prepared breakfast. Asked about his plans. Smiled. Even laughed. But Emeka couldn't stop thinking about what he had heard. The fear in her voice. The sadness. The desperation. None of it made sense. And yet it felt connected to everything else. The envelopes. The mysterious man. The phone calls. The secret meetings. Everything. Somehow all the pieces belonged together. He just couldn't see the full picture yet. A few days later, another unexpected event shook the household. A black SUV pulled up outside their compound. Immediately, neighbors became curious. Vehicles like that rarely entered the area. Children gathered nearby. Women stopped their conversations. Everyone watched. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Well-dressed. Expensive wristwatch. Polished shoes. The kind of person who looked powerful without saying a word. When Mama Grace saw him, all color disappeared from her face. The reaction was immediate. And impossible to miss. Fear. Pure fear. For a brief moment, she looked like someone who had seen a ghost. The man approached slowly. Mama Grace. His voice was calm. Respectful. Yet something about it felt unsettling. The woman forced a smile. Good afternoon. We need to talk. The man's expression remained serious. Very serious. Emeka watched everything from a distance. The atmosphere felt wrong. Dangerously wrong. The two moved to a corner of the compound where they could speak privately. But even from afar, Emeka noticed how tense his mother became. The conversation lasted nearly 20 minutes. At several points, she appeared emotional. At one point, she even wiped tears from her eyes. When the discussion ended, the man handed her another envelope. The same type. The same brown envelope. The same mystery. Then he left. Without greeting anyone else. Without explaining anything. Without even looking at Emeka. The SUV disappeared down the road. Leaving behind a silence that felt heavy. Very heavy. That evening, Emeka could no longer hold his questions inside. As they sat together eating dinner, he finally spoke. Mom. She looked up. Yes. Who was that man? For the first time in years, Mama Grace dropped her spoon. The sound echoed through the room. Neither spoke. Seconds passed. Then more. Finally she forced a smile. Just someone I know. The answer irritated him. Someone you know? Yes. What does he want? Nothing. Then why does he keep giving you envelopes? The question hit like a thunderbolt. Immediately, her face changed. Shock. Fear. Worry. All appearing at once. For a moment, Emeka thought she might finally tell him the truth. Instead, she simply looked away. I don't want to talk about it. The answer frustrated him. More than ever before. Because now he knew one thing for certain. She was hiding something. Something important. Days passed. University registration arrived. And somehow, against all odds, every fee was paid. Every single one. Registration. Accommodation. Books. Everything. Emeka couldn't understand it. The amount was far beyond anything his mother could realistically afford. Yet somehow she had managed. Again. The mystery deepened. And with every passing day, his suspicion grew stronger. University life soon began. For the first time, Emeka left home. For the first time, he lived away from his mother. For the first time, he started building an independent life. But despite the excitement of campus, one thing continued bothering him. Mama Grace. Something felt wrong. Every phone conversation sounded different. She seemed weaker. More tired. More emotional. Sometimes she called simply to hear his voice. Sometimes she asked strange questions. Questions she had never asked before. Are you happy? Do you have good friends? Are you taking care of yourself? Do you still remember everything I taught you? The questions felt unusual. Almost like someone preparing to say goodbye. One evening, during his second semester, he received a call from a neighbor. The moment he answered, he knew something was wrong. The woman's voice trembled. Emeka. His heart began racing. Yes. You need to come home. Fear exploded inside him. What happened? Silence. Then came the words he had dreaded his entire life. It's your mother. The words seemed to stop. Everything became quiet. Too quiet. His hands started shaking. What happened to my mother? The woman hesitated. Then answered softly. She has been taken to the hospital. Emeka's heart sank. Immediately. Completely. Because deep down, he knew. He knew this moment had been coming. For months. Maybe years. The sickness she tried so hard to hide. The pain she refused to discuss. The fear hidden behind her smile. Everything had finally caught up with her. And unknown to Emeka. As he rushed home to see his mother. The secret she had spent decades protecting was closer than ever to being exposed. Because inside her room, hidden among old belongings, hidden among forgotten documents, hidden inside one final brown envelope, was a truth powerful enough to change Emeka's life forever. A truth connected to his birth. A truth connected to a wealthy family. And a truth that Mama Grace had sacrificed everything to keep hidden. But now, time was running out.